I'm Lindsey, and it's time to gather at the well. We're on a mission to microdose wellness, create human-centered systems, and retain our greatest asset, our people. We believe it's time for podcasts that teach, moving beyond thought leadership and towards change leadership. Join us and our friends at We Are for Good as we model the way with concrete examples from the field and gain tangible tools, because it's possible to build adult work cultures we don't need to heal from. Let's get into it. Hey friend, welcome back. I know everything feels out of control, whether it's politics, human suffering, natural disasters, the whole world really. And it begs the question, what is within your locus of control? And I'd offer that one of the few things that we can actually control or influence in this moment is our leadership stance. Whether you're in a formal leadership position or you are a vital staff member inside of a school, nonprofit, philanthropic body, any company really, the way that we show up to represent our values, the way we show up for one another, the way we show up for the very important missions that we're working to enact, that's what's important in this moment. And I'd say that the human-centered policies that we create are even more critical during this time of collective rupture. The policies that you build inside of your organization to support your teammates, to leverage their brilliance, that's where you have agency. So we're going to get through this together. Don't check out, stay right here. Before we jump into content, I want to give a moment of co-regulation. And I don't know if this is more for me or for you in this moment, but let me whisper some warmth into you. So if you're down to drop in, you might sit back and stack your vertebrae, situating your body in an alert, but also calm stance. Inviting you to press the soles of your feet into the ground. And if you're driving, gazing off to the horizon, if it feels safe to lower your gaze or close your eyes, feel free to join me. Just taking a moment to breathe in through the nose, audible exhale through the mouth. 2 more just like that. I see you. Life is lifing. Adulting is hard. And you're not alone. As you steady your breath, just remembering your worth. You're doing the best that you can with what you know and can do. Your heart is beautiful and your intentions are good. You're talented. You're not disposable. You're essential to this work. We need you in the fight. Rested, well, recharged. We see you working hard. You're so valued. Just taking this moment, you might even visualize a beloved person in your life. Maybe it's an elder or a child in your life. Maybe it's your best friend or a trusted mentor, and you might just envision them whispering warmth in your ears, embracing you, uplifting you, adjusting your crown, grinning at you. There are so many people in your corner that are deeply proud of you. So don't give up. And you might gently awaken, stretching or rotating your shoulders or your neck. We've got work to do, so welcome back. If you're joining us for the first time, this is Gather at the Well, the podcast that teaches. And if you've been riding with us, loyalty is my love language. So, hey, and I'm not talking about loyalty to me. I'm actually talking about my gratitude that you stuck it out for you, that you've come back to this podcast, back to your values, to your people and your mission. You've come back to learn and to center well-being, and that's dope. So I want to stamp a couple of key topics that we've explored in the first part of Gather at the Well. Check us out and make sure you visit the blogs that accompany each episode. We really dove into microdosing wellness, this concept of small things often to sustain yourself in the critical work that you do. The balancing of self and collective care and how to operationalize your values. You know them. You have every intention of them showing up. But how do you codify them in the systems, policies, and practices that surround you and your colleagues? And how do we do all of this under the umbrella of uncertainty? In our episode on navigating uncertainty, we actually introduced a progression, me, we world. Well, this next series is really going to be centering the we. How do we align and show up for one another? How do we create the conditions to truly thrive, and not in the cliche form, but actually to demonstrate true liberation, sustainability, impact, rigor, and support? And how do we do that across lines of difference? Microdosing on the margins and in the face of hate or pushback or budget constraints. When I think about how microdosing wellness connects to human-centered leadership or human-centered cultures, human-centered leaders are the ones that are redesigning, and in my episode on change leadership, engineering the supports and structures that make sure that that stressful condition doesn't overwhelm, pull, push, or drag our most important talent out of the door. I've shared it with y'all, but I want to revisit this concept, this myth and the lie that we can eliminate or reduce stress. Stress will always be present. The mindset of eliminating or reducing stress is one of the most prevalent, toxic, and harmful narratives in the social sector. And so I'm not suggesting that human-centered leaders completely remove stressful conditions or realities inside of their organizations for their teams. They're not here to save. But what I also know is that you're a whole lot more resilient and nimble and flexible in the face of stressors when you have a leader you can trust, when there are clear codified systems, when you can rest into the structures and expectations inside of your organization, and when you know that your well-being, your professional growth, and your contributions are valued and nurtured. When those conditions are present, you're able to stay and persist and persevere. That's why in this historical moment, when burnout rates are skyrocketing, where attrition of staff across sector lines, where medical and mental health leaves are so prevalent, and frankly, our collective morale, our hope reserve is low, human-centered leaders are critical for creating the conditions for staff to align on a North Star without compromising their own sustainability or longevity in the field. Let's actually break down the concept of human-centered a little bit more. At its core, this orientation or approach or leadership lens is humans first. It's a commitment to your team, their needs, their empowerment and development. It's creating the conditions for them to thrive. At the Teaching Well, it means we honor the wholeness of our staff, that they're doing everything within their power to balance serving our clients and supporting one another, but they're also tending to their own healing as well as provider responsibilities. Human-centered approaches are humane, even when things are challenging and when missteps are made. It's not punishing. Instead, it's patience. It's pouring in and positioning them to succeed. Let's pause for a moment and engage in a human-centered healing effort. We know that there's so many benefits to movement, to exercise, but recently I've been trying to figure out what are some ways to incorporate movement when I'm exhausted. I don't have the HIIT or the boxing class in me, but I also want to be in community with my somatic state in ways that aren't just asking my body to give more, that actually feel reciprocal and nourishing. And what I found is that both swimming and walking are exercises that are exceptionally beneficial for your overall health, including your mental health, but they also lower cortisol levels, whereas sometimes those rigorous workouts can spike your stress hormone even further. So if you have access to a window, if you're driving, looking through that dashboard, or maybe you even want to click pause and go to your front door or the office porch and check this out. I want you to lay your eyes on something blue or green. If the sky ain't blue because it's winter and it's giving cold, then find a plant, a tree, a flower. It can even be a house plant. But we know that there are so many benefits to nature exposure. In fact, we talk about nature deficit disorder and how many folks in our communities are struggling. An invitation to take 5 deep breaths, seeing if you can notice the texture, the hue, the height, the leaf pattern of something nearby. Noticing a couple of details, perhaps expressing gratitude. Reminding yourself that you're more than the computer, more than the work, more than your to-do list, that you exist within an ecosystem, that it's a gift to witness the planet and to be witnessed back by it. If I haven't made my case clear, let me make it now that, especially in moments of uncertainty, when we feel like hopelessness is falling towards us, I really like to center on what can empower my internal team and myself to continue to strive towards making a difference. And human-centered policies are one of the clearest things I can control as a leader of an organization. They're like the skeletal system of the human body. They provide a supportive frame, make way for nimble movement, and perhaps most importantly, they protect the vital organs, which in the case of a professional context is your people. They keep the work alive. They move us beyond surviving. I think of these policies as a beautiful display of art, almost painting the picture of your operationalized values, maybe an outward demonstration of your team spirit and morale and collaboration and cohesion. On the soft side, human-centered policies provide a place for employees and leaders to rest in harmony with the needs of the team at the center. They're a public and present way to demonstrate you're listening as their leader, that they can trust you, that they're safe. Human-centered policies encourage the team to strive towards a common goal, not just the vision on your website, but the profound experience of being on a successful team. It inspires pride. I don't know about you all, but when I look up and I notice I'm on a successful team, and not just at the teaching well, I mean growing up as an athlete, I mean being on a dope teaching team, shout out to my first grade colleagues. It's actually really magical to look around the room and understand that you all are linked up in solidarity, making forward progress together. I feel encouraged, and we all need encouragement in this moment. So that's on the soft side of it. But if you want to look on the hard side of it, human-centered policies help you risk mitigate. This upfront investment in psychological safety, in people-first practices, save a tremendous amount of time for our HR, ops, legal, and supervisory teams. There are fewer mediations, complaints, and leaves. More time in our gifts. Imagine that. You take care of them, and they take care of the community you work to serve. So as you join us for this journey, centering a human-centered approach to professional work, these messages, these episodes, these blogs, they're for all of you, all of us, me included, because it takes a team to build an adult culture you don't need to heal from. That's never going to be successfully achieved just because you have a leader with that vision. Everyone has to lean towards each other. You have to choose one another. It's easier to disengage, in my opinion, or disparage your org culture. It's easier to release expectations and vent about your dissatisfaction. What's harder, but more rewarding, is being part of the initial wave of a morale overhaul or a turnaround effort. I used to have a couple colleagues that would joke that I was the Olivia Pope of the district that I led, that I was a fixer. But now when I looked back on it, it wasn't ever about fixing. It was actually about surrounding myself with powerful change agents, helping us to align on our North Star, providing the scaffolds and resources, training, and rigorous coaching that they were all entitled to. And then again, as change leaders do, getting out of the way and letting them know that just because you're not on the stage with them doesn't mean you aren't in the first row of the audience, rooting for them, cheering for them, and standing ready to jump in if it's needed. Change leaders can identify and rely on the culture keepers in their teams. Often when I'm coaching principals or nonprofit executives, district leaders, one of the primary questions I ask are, who are your culture keepers? Again, these are not just influencers or thought leaders. These are the folks who, when they speak, others listen. And beyond listening, others want to join. These are the folks who are innovating and piloting, progress monitoring, and seeking that continuous improvement. They're motivating their peers to level up, to stay in the straight path, to act within integrity, and to grow their practice. If you can't identify your culture keepers, you're going to be going this route alone. And that's not always linked to title. Hopefully, your co-leaders are also culture keepers, but status isn't what drives a culture keeper. They have internal fire in their belly. They see your leadership, it aligns with their own. They're ready to move it forward. You want to elevate, you want to eliminate barriers. You want to validate, uplift, and affirm their efforts. Because ultimately, when you're not in the room, those are the folks that are going to remind people, hey, we got this dope conditions here. We are working inside of an organization that truly values us. Let's do this. They're literally the gold in your organization. You need to retain them. You likely need to promote them. But you absolutely need to celebrate them. I want to drop in on a couple of affirmations. We're going to keep this episode short, sweet, to the point, because we've got a lot of good trouble to get into in the coming sessions. But I want to just continue with this effort to speak some power and some peace and some presence into your spirit. Because the world needs change agents and change leaders now more than ever. Even if you have that inner story that you didn't get yourself into this mess, the only way through it is together. So say these with me, or at least maybe journal with them. I prioritize my peace and safety. I may feel unsure, but I have agency. I deserve a healthy workplace. When I am able, I lean towards solutions. I am a part of something bigger. You, yes, you, are a magical human. And I can't say it enough, so you'll keep hearing me saying it. We really need you to stay. There's a lot of good trouble to get into. A bit of homework. If you're new, you'll know that the podcast that teaches believes in a strong, consistent pedagogy. So while we'd love for you to go back and revisit the full microdosing wellness series under Gather at the Well, in particular, an important part of pre-work that will lay the foundations for this next series is episode 4, Navigating Uncertainty. If you can make some time to listen to that or visit the blog, we want to really encourage you to dial in on the me, we, world progression. Because while that first series really emphasized some of the me part in that, now it's time for us to think about the interpersonal realities that teams and organizations often struggle with. So with that in mind, and if you've listened to that, we're encouraging you to consider or hone in on a policy, practice, or system that you feel like is contributing to interpersonal ruptures, tensions, unproductive collaboration, inefficiencies. To narrow in and to pull that through as you're listening to this next season. I know there's a temptation to want to gut everything, but human-centered leadership requires intentional, strategic, and sustainable movement. So let's isolate one area and bring that with you to our next session. So here's my critical hope. Collective care is the way forward. Human-centered leadership and policies create the guardrails for a relational rebirth. And in this divided country, that's truly what we need. A relational rebirth across so many lines of difference. Inviting your team to build the organization of their ancestors' wildest dreams is a privilege and an honor, especially if you're in a leadership seat. Your role in this moment is creating a culture of belonging that will attract and retain top talent, fortify your reputation, and increase inspired productivity. I know you feel the pressure to keep your org afloat, to keep your school budget balanced, to keep your people. I feel that pressure too. But taking care of your people is the real work. Moving closer each day towards fulfilling your organization's mission is only possible when we shoulder up together. So harness those pain points and convert them to fuel. It's time to recycle the state of tension, of ruptures, and actually bring in some fresh air of psychological safety, of professional authenticity, and of beloved community. With everything being so polarized in our world, it's time to find the middle path, to evolve and heal out loud. Let's make some change together, one human-centered move at a time. All right, y'all, thanks for coming to play at Gather at the Well, the podcast that teaches. If you like this conversation, come visit us online at teachingwell.org and hit us up on our socials. Remember to visit the podcast page to download a couple of useful tools to get your life and heal up your org.